Shoutouts to Jeremy Bork for the new intro music. Welcome into the DNVR Avalanche podcast presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. I'm Rudo, as always, with AJ Haefele. And today on the show, a special guest, Marisa Ingemi from Sportsnet. I hope I didn't butcher your name too bad. I'm known for doing
that. No,
that.
was perfect.
All right. Sometimes lucky, I guess. But
Most
today
people
we're going to be
wrong, too.
Really? I mean...
yeah.
I'll get it wrong later in the show after having gotten it correct, so don't worry. Doing a little bit of a different show today. Going to be talking about the upcoming NWHL season, which Marisa is covering for Sportsnet. So I'm excited to get into it. It seems to fit my favorite type of event, a little bit of a super tournament vibe going on here for the NWHL. Marisa, what are expectations for this strange season coming up?
It's going to be really fun to see these teams in like a very concentrated environment because we're used to seeing like one or two games on a weekend and then a week apart from games, but it's going to be rapid fire, which is going to be really cool just to see like how these teams handle that. It's going to make the goaltending more interesting too because teams with good tandems are going to succeed. Kind of like in the NHL having a condensed schedule, teams that have two goalies are probably going to do better, except for seasons in 2 weeks instead of like however long a 56 game schedule is. So it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be more high intensity than we're used to. It'll almost be like watching the Olympics with it being like every single day there being games. Boston's really good. Minnesota's really good. They should have been in the Isobel Cup last year. It never ended up happening. So I'm sure both of those teams are, they're definitely like on a revenge tour of some sort. I know Boston is at least because they've been talking about it since like April. It's going to be a super fun season. I really can't wait for it.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think coming from a place where I've never really followed it that much, if I were to try and get into it this year, how would I go about getting into it? Where can I watch it? Where can I follow the games?
One of the things I've loved about the NWHL, like its entire run, is just like how accessible it is. It's not on TV until the playoffs. The semifinals will be on NBCSN, and so will the Isobel Cup. But it's all free online. You can watch it on Twitch. They tweet out all their games. The production is pretty good. I don't know what it'll look like in Lake Placid, but I imagine it being just like every day and kind of like everyone's full-time job for 2 weeks. I'm sure that production will be even better than it's been in some of these smaller arenas where it's a little more makeshift at times. But you can watch it all on Twitch. The league's very good about accessibility. There's going to be more coverage, I think, than I've ever seen because I've just seen more people tweeting about it, more people talking about it, more NHL-centric people who will either be writing about it or tweeting about it. So I feel like this might be the most accessible NWHL season ever, which is really awesome to see.
Relative to the NHL and other leagues that have been around forever, the NWHL is a relatively new league entering its 6th season here. Is there any worry about that? Obviously, COVID a big issue for every league, but for a league so young, how do you navigate that?
Yeah, that's really interesting because like a topic I've actually thought about a lot is how a lot of the smaller leagues, like the non-major 4 or major 5, if you want to count MLS, have actually like they've done okay for themselves for the most part. And I think a lot about it, and this is like there's a reason for this tangent. Back in June, when I was writing a story for Washington City paper about Major League Rugby and the team in Washington, Old Glory, DC, and their owner mentioned something about how like those teams have less to lose because they're not making as much. They don't have the same travel budget. So like they're not doing an 162 game season traveling all over the place across the country. And then the PLL we saw in Premier Lacrosse League, they're doing pretty okay for themselves. And every time I've talked to them, they've kind of had a similar mentality. And then when I talked to National Pro Fast Pitch Softball over the summer for Yahoo, like very similar things. So I think the NWHL is in the same boat in the sense of they don't have the same costs that they've lost to worry about. This isn't a league that has made a ton of money. The Minnesota Whitecaps were the first team to draw a profit, not last season, but the year before. The Boston Pride have done pretty well for themselves for the most part, but the majority of this league is not spending a ton of money and they're not making like a ton of money either. Like they're in okay financial shape. They're not in dire straits. It's not like a nightmare. It's not the NLL circa 2012 or whatever. I knew you'd get that one, AJ. It's actually like doing pretty okay, but they're not losing these costs. The furthest distance traveled is like Boston, Connecticut to Minnesota, right? So when you take that into account, you take into account the salaries aren't much higher than 20,000, I believe. It's not going to suffer as much as a league that's going to lose, like MLB, NHL, like they're going to lose millions. Those leagues are fine. They're owned by billionaires, but they are still losing millions. And the NWHL just doesn't have that to lose. So long-winded way of saying like, it's fine.
The financial shape of the league, what's kind of like a long-term outlook for it in terms of, I mean, is it still growing? Are we going to add more teams in the near future? Kind of what's the projection look like?
I would expect new teams in the very near future. I would definitely look for that. And one of the big focuses of the NWHL, and we've seen this with the ownership in Toronto and Boston being taken over by independent ownership, there's a big focus on getting independent owners for teams. So that counts for expansion teams, and that counts for the 4 teams, Minnesota, Connecticut, Derivators, and Buffalo, that are currently under an ownership structure within the investors of the league. And I think that we've already seen in Boston, like how much success they've been able to have on the ice and off because players are just getting different amenities. We've seen in Toronto them having their own locker rooms and just kind of their social presence and just like the benefits that are there from having independent ownership. So they're really committed to that model. I would expect any expansion teams coming in the near future, like I said, to be under a model like that. I wouldn't be surprised to see a Connecticut under independent ownership at some point in the near future as well. And those teams are going to do better just because they have more resources at their disposal. And it's kind of like you have to spend money to make money type of thing, which sounds like really basic and dumb. But at the same time, just like having that presence out there is huge. We've seen that with Boston. We've seen that with Toronto. They haven't even played a game yet. Like the Six haven't even played a game, and their presence in the hockey world is tremendous. We've already seen that a ton on social. We've seen the Colorado Avalanche tweeting with the Toronto Six. They haven't played a game yet, and there's like a connection there already. And I think a lot of that is just having like the ability to have an identity, and that comes again from having your own independence. So I think that's all good signs for the league. And the fact that they've been able to generate more sponsorships in the past year, and this is something I'm going to be writing about at some point, like very soon. The idea of the sponsorships they've brought in during a pandemic, during a time where a lot of the faces of women's hockey that people know about, like household names, have been in the PWHPA and have been a lot of like vitriol directed towards the NWHL from those names. The fact that the league has been able to bring in those sponsorships and that extra revenue is so huge. So I think the future looks really good going into year 6. You look at, I mean, when I've covered lacrosse a lot, what I've been told is like that third year for expansion teams or teams that move is kind of the barometer, and the NWHL is well beyond those 3 years. It feels like they've kind of crossed that threshold despite these challenges that have come their way, and I think that speaks a lot about just like their confidence in where they're at.
You mentioned a lot of vitriol directed towards the league. Can you expand on just a little bit of that?
Okay. From its most basic standpoint, the PWHPA is essentially the national United States and Canadian teams, and they're right now playing in, and can say this in like the nicest way possible, in a Florida-based non-bubble tournament against teenage boys run by an anti-masker from New Hampshire. So way to go, guys. So they're not a league. They want you to know they're not a league. That's like something they really want to stress about. They're a foundation, an association. They claim to be a labor movement that does not pay any of its labor. So they exist kind of. They don't really play games as much, and when they do, we can't really get access to them because they like to tweet out how the media is mean for asking for box scores and press releases and stuff. So it's really tough to know what's going on. Like something I talk about with some people a lot is the fact that Katie Burke, one of the best women's goaltenders of our time, was the starting goalie for Boston College at age 17, Team USA player. Rookie of the year was a Boston Pride, just a tremendous goalie. Goes to the PWHPA, barely plays, and is now struggling every time she's in with the national team, not really getting opportunities anymore because players who are not like Hillary Knight don't get ice time there. So that's just like the best way I can kind of frame the PWHPA in a way that makes sense to me. And the entire thing is based on not wanting the NWHL to exist. Like there's definitely a huge contingent in the PWHPA that is reliant on the NHL coming in and basically just paying them to exist. We're all in agreement that women's hockey players need to be paid more, but if that money's not there, it's not there. And the NWHL, I think, does a tremendous job of getting their players as much money as possible. They make most of, if not all, the money on their jersey sales. After 500 tickets sold for every game, the players get the rest of the revenue for ticket sales. Every player is being paid their full salary for a 2-week tournament in Lake Placid, even players who opt out. The only other league I've seen do anything like that is the NLL, paying their players a full salary when their season was canceled at the end of last year. I've not seen a single other league, men's or women's, do anything like that. So the NWHL had its struggles early on. They're in a much better place now. I've seen it happen firsthand over the past 5 years. Like the leadership in there has done a tremendous job. Danny Ryland's taken a step back, so if the PWHPA players had a problem specific with her, I don't think that would be relevant anymore. But it's really a tough one to dissect because the framing from the PWHPA a lot of times will have you believe the NWHL flat out abuses its players, when the players past and present have rebutted that several times. We've seen players leave the PW was their main complaint, being lack of ice time. The PW encourages its players who don't make rosters to be a part of it and kind of discourages them from playing anywhere else. They call the NWHL not a pro league, even though the NWHL pays its players salaries. And again, we've seen players go back to the NW, and I think that really speaks for it more than anything else.
So how do we bring all of women's hockey together? How do we get everybody on the same page and try and grow the game as one?
It's a tough one because I think if we all had an answer, we'd be there. I mean, we've been at this for years now between, it's the NW against the CW, or, they're actually like kind of working together, or, they hate each other. There's one league now. The NHL said they wanted one league, right? Actually, never mind. Now here's the PWHPA and the NHL doesn't want to be a part of any of it. When there is only one league, the NW, the NHL says they don't want to step on their toes. So I think it's time to take it like a realistic expectation of the NHL's not involved in this. They don't want to be involved in this. If they did, they would be. They've put Kendall Coyne on a platform when she skated at the All-Star game in San Jose a couple years ago. They had the tournament at the All-Star game this year, but that really feels like the extent of it, because if they wanted to be involved, they could be. The Bruins have this like supposed partnership with the Boston Pride, and I haven't heard them mention them in years. It's tough. The Buffalo, the Sabres, the Pagulas owned the Buttes for a while. They sold them back to the league, and now would have you believe the Buttes simply don't exist. So, like, if the NHL wanted to be a part of this, they would be, and I think that's something that people are overlooking. Like, the women don't have to do more. They don't have to be more. The NHL could just, like, give them money whenever they feel like. They're not doing that. So, was that established? The NWHL has put its best foot forward to create a platform by women, for women, to really just let them play, to give them a platform to like be public professional women's hockey players. I think to do a good job promoting them. So I think the whole narrative of wait for the NHL to be our saviors is really, really misguided at best, and just flat out holding the game back intentionally at worst. So I totally don't understand the motive of just waiting for that when it's been made explicitly clear. Like Gary Bettman has flat out told members of the PWHPA, members of the NWHL, it's not happening. They're going to focus on being in Europe before they focus on women. Like that meeting happened years ago at this point, and just like reality has not set in for a lot of people. So how does it become one thing? In something like women's hockey where there aren't too many roster spots and there isn't too much money to be made, I don't mind there being multiple options. I didn't hate there being a CW and an NW because it gave players more agency over their choices. They could pick something that was best for them, and it gave them a little bit of leverage when negotiating or when looking for a proper situation. So even like the presence of the PWHPA itself, I'm not against that in any way. I think having more opportunities for what works best for the individual is great. What's concerning is when you have someone like the PWHPA coming out and saying the NWHL doesn't exist, they're not professional players, they're not worth it, they are lesser, they are worse. That whole like negativity is like just a real bad vibe. It's a real bad look for women's hockey overall, especially when you have the NWHL and Dijon Murphy, the coach and president of the Toronto Six, saying multiple times, like, yeah, go do whatever is best for you. So I think it's less of a goal of being a united front, as in like one central option, that kind of takes away some leverage from players until everyone can make millions like the men, and more of an issue of just like letting players have agency over what they believe is best for them.
I do want to continue this conversation, but we do need to take our first period break, as this podcast is brought to you by Haefele Cattle Company. Haefele Cattle Company equals hassle-free meat life. We brought you damn good beer here at DNVR. Now we're bringing you damn good beef. Haefele Cattle Company is the absolute best source for farm-to-table Wagyu beef in the country, and they're a fourth-generation cattle farm out of Texas. They ship all over the USA and will bring it right to your door when you order from them. So jump on it. They call it the blue-collar Wagyu because it's the best Wagyu that every man or woman can afford, and they give you a ton of options from smoked jerky to sausage, New York strip, beef, bacon, Wagyu, Frank, you name it, you can get it in Wagyu form, as well as all of their other amazing meats. Head on over to HassellCattleCompany.com. That's HASSELL CattleCompany.com and use promo code DNVR10 to get 10% off when you order. And any orders over $200, you get free shipping as well. So be sure to check them out, and you will not be disappointed. Second period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast with Marisa Ingemi. Talking NWHL, you've talked a little bit about the CWHL folding almost 2 years ago now, and this year Toronto entering the NWHL as an expansion team is pushing more into Canada, a target for this league to kind of get themselves more on the map.
Yeah, I think we're definitely going to see more of that at some point in the future too. Like, women's hockey in Canada has such a storied past, and losing to CWHL had so many players who lost roster spots. Many of them didn't go to the NWHL for whatever reason. Now it was Toronto. We're seeing a lot of those players end up in the NW instead of going overseas, or just like flat out not playing because they signed their soul over to the PWHPA. So we're definitely going to see a lot more of a Canadian presence in the league going forward, I think. And I think based on how Toronto does this year, that's a team I expect to come in and be pretty successful right off the bat. And I think that will help the league as well, just as far as getting attention in Canada. And I mean, Canada is it's the country of hockey, right? So if anyone's going to embrace pro women's hockey, you would think it would be there. And the CWHL had like a lot of weirdness. Like it was very good hockey, especially for teams that were not the Boston Blades, who won, I think, one game over their past 2 years because they just got completely neglected by that league. But I mean, having a stronger pro presence will be huge there, because like the Calgary Inferno were awesome and the Toronto Furies were awesome, and they didn't get as much press or attention maybe because the league was framed as a non-profit league and not fully as pro. They didn't pay their players until 4 years after the NWHL became the first league to pay their players. So I think just like a more structured situation for any Canadian team will really get them on board with pro women's hockey.
All right. I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit here.
All right.
Maybe not the best players, but who are your 3 favorite players in the NWHL currently?
Okay. Gonna try not to show my Boston bias here, but we'll start with the Boston Pride. I think McKenna Brand is just like one of the best scorers in the league. I think she's someone who should be getting looked at by Team USA. She's fantastic. She played with Jillian Dempsey on the Boston top line, and she's a sniper. She's fantastic. She's super fun to watch. I think she's someone you're definitely going to want to keep an eye on. To keep with the Boston theme, Jillian Dempsey as well. And I don't want to just like be so heavy on Boston, but they're just fantastic to watch. And I've seen them a lot over the past few years. They're just absolutely tremendous. Jillian Dempsey, she's a captain of the Pride. She's their center. She's been there since literally day one with them. She took over the captaincy. She was their second line center back in the day when Hillary Knight and Brianna Decker were on that team. And she's really emerged as just a fantastic player, great playmaker. Her on that line was Christina Patinia, and with Brand is just think Bergeron, Marchand, Pasternak, or I guess for you guys, the Landeskog line might make more sense as a correlation. So that's definitely up there. I'm trying to think of like goalies for you guys. Okay, you know what? Let's go with Allie Thunstrom on Minnesota. She's fantastic too. She was co-MVP with Dempsey. Just tremendous scorer, one of the fastest players in pro hockey period, men's or women's. I do want to give you a goalie though, and I don't want to give you the Boston goalie, Lovisa Salander, who is fantastic, but just to keep it a little more national, Amanda Levier on Minnesota. We saw her with Buffalo for years and years, just be fantastic. And I think she should get her due as one of the best goaltenders in the women's game. So let's go with those 4 players when you asked for 3.
All right. I'm starting to pick up a vibe of which teams you're going to tell AJ to follow in a minute here. So
Yeah, I already feel like I'm being subliminally pushed a little bit towards Boston.
You had to know what you were getting here.
I definitely did. It was not lost on me where you were coming from.
all right. So, well, first of all, he won't be choosing Minnesota either, no matter what, I assume.
Yeah, that won't be happening.
Okay, good. We're
Any
safe on
reason?
that front.
Yeah, Colorado and Minnesota don't get along well.
But there's no Colorado NWHL team.
Yeah, but Minnesota is still a state.
Yeah, he tainted the whole
It is
state
still
at this
I-
point.
I tell you, I was there 2 days ago. I was in Minneapolis for my connection, and when my flight landed from Winnipeg in Minneapolis, it was like frozen, and so the plane started to like slide a little bit, and I was starting to get a little upset because I was like, if I die in Minnesota, I am haunting this whole state. Like, I'm gonna haunt everybody in this state forever, especially Bill Guerin.
Okay.
But I made it out and I got home okay, so I could just go back to regular, normal Minnesota hate.
Thank
So
God
the
for that.
Whitecaps are off the table.
Yeah, so the White, I really walked into this with one team. The Whitecaps were never an option for me. But you tell me one of the fastest skaters in all of hockey plays for them, and I'm like, dang
They're
it.
fun. I really like watching Minnesota. They're the only team to beat Boston at any point last year. That Isobel Cup was going to be so good. Like, we all lost out not getting to see that. That was going to be like revenge game for the Pride. The Whitecaps trying to prove they could win it in Boston as an under. Like, imagine the Whitecaps being framed as an underdog. That's how good Boston was. We all lost out. Like, part of me really hopes that we get that matchup in the end here so that we can like finally see that. But then I kind of also just want insane chaos too.
Insane Chaos is a really fun option. when it
Chaos
comes to
Squad is
sports.
the best for sure.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to see like Connecticut, Toronto, and everyone be like, "What?"
Okay,
I'm
so
for this.
is Connecticut a bad choice here because Rudo is an early adopter of the whale?
Yo,
I
underdog
think
for
the
life.
Whale might be okay this year. That's like one of my hot takes. I don't know if it's a hot take because I haven't like actually mentioned it to anyone yet. But I like the Whale better than I've liked them in past years. Like, they've been the cellar dwellers of the league since day one, pretty much. They've had a lot of struggles over the years because like it's Hartford Whaler syndrome. You're between Boston and New York, right? Or New Jersey in Riveter's case now because they keep moving around. So it's tough to attract the best players sometimes because, well, if you played for like Northeastern or BU or BC, like you're probably going to want to play for the Pride. And if you want to live south of Boston and still like in the Northeast, you're probably going to want to play for the Riveters and not in Stamford or Danbury, New York, or wherever they've ended up, or Connecticut the past few years. They've bounced around a bit. So that's kind of been a problem for them, even though they're like actually like they have a lot of talent there. Like Shannon Doyle is one of the best defenders in league history. And I don't say that just because she went to BU. She's fantastic, has an amazing shot. But I like some of the roster building they've done this year. I think Tori Howren, who was a draft pick by them, I think she's a tremendous addition. It's going to help them a lot. Alyssa Wolfeeler just left from Boston, and I think she's going to help the culture over there quite a bit, coming from a really good team. I don't know. I think this might be Connecticut's year to like make a push, especially because when you have such a short schedule, like that's chaos central, right? Like we always talk about like in the NHL, like after October, like, oh, you can't really judge anything. So imagine that's like your whole season, right? All of a sudden you're going to have like the New Jersey Devils getting ready for the Stanley Cup. So anything can happen in a condensed season. So I kind of like Connecticut for that reason, but definitely like the ultimate wild card.
The ultimate wild. Okay, that's a pretty good sell for me. I like the ultimate wild card as
Also,
my
they have
selling
the best
point.
uniforms in hockey.
Oh
Yeah,
no.
by like a mile.
Better.
I love the Pride
mile.
uniforms. Like I always love them, and this year I think they're just like at a different level. But I don't know how you can't think Connecticut's the best. Like NHL, NWHL, AHL, I don't care. The Whale have the best look.
Even better than the Nordiques reverse retros.
Those are pretty great. Not gonna lie.
I'm a big fan. They look awesome. And the
Like
hats.
top
the
top
hats.
3 reverse retro.
Do you see that new white hoodie they just released? Ooh.
I did not, actually.
It Andy said it exactly right. It looks so sexy, but then it's white, and you're like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna
the one
ruin
white thing that
this.
I would own.
Yeah,
White hoodies are scary.
yeah, exactly.
So you say we're gonna take a quick side road here, but what are the other ones that are in your top 3 reverse retro jerseys?
Okay, you're gonna hate me because I'm gonna say Minnesota. And
You
I'm
just
sorry.
really like Subway, or what?
I just like the North Stars.
Okay.
I think they're really cool. Okay, before I go into that, though, like, I have a hot take. I think that the Dallas Stars are too much of a coward to bring back any California Golden Seals gear. Is like a shame.
I'll buy anything that involves the Dallas Stars being cowards. I'm good with that. That sounds
Like,
great.
So, like,
Whatever the reason.
Reverse retros are very weird, but you know what would have saved them? Wear white skates to honor the Golden Seals.
Everything else is white. They look like stormtroopers.
So just goes to white skates too. Like, this is the opportunity to bring that back.
That would have been great. I could have been on board with that.
Like, that's my biggest take of all the reverse retro stuff. And then so Minnesota, Colorado, the Kings. The Kings are perfect. They never should have left their old color scheme at any point. It was perfect.
No love for the Burger King.
Which one?
Their old third, yeah.
Because the Manchester Monarchs had the same thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, it freaks me out. I don't like it. I've tried to erase it from my brain. They should. What? Okay, the only problem with the Kings is they try to call it like forum blue, and we're not doing that because I am partially colorblind. So do not confuse me any worse. That is purple, and don't tell me it's not purple. I will have a panic attack.
So how do you feel about the Ducks reverse retro? Because we had a major split on this podcast when we did that episode.
I'm not and this is because I'm too young, so I missed like the heyday of the weird like Disney Ducks or whatever. So like that nostalgia doesn't do anything for me. So I think it's just like all kind of weird. It's fine. I like wackiness once in a while. And my hottest take about it is if they didn't have like the weird font, I would like it a lot better.
I don't disagree. The font on the back is awful.
It's fine. I don't hate it. Like, for the people who like have nostalgia for it and they love it, I'm not going to take that away from them or invalidate that or whatever. Like, cool, wackiness, weirdness, fun, cool, but the font loses me. That's all.
Yeah, I was a big adopter of. I love the logo. I love that it's chaotic and really out of character for the NHL to have that much personality. And then I saw the font on it on the back and was like, oh.
Like, is it Comic Sans? Like, if it's not that, it's close.
It's like worse than Comic Sans somehow.
It's bad. It really is. It does take away my desire to own something that has that on it.
But, like, I don't know. I know people, like, 2-3 years older than me always wearing the old Ducks hats, and I'm always like, okay, I just, like, kind of missed that era, so it doesn't have the same effect on me.
So, bringing this, staying in the same topic, but bringing it back to the NWHL, if we were ranking logos in the league, where are we?
Logos or jerseys? Because it's
logos.
Different. Okay. The Whale is number 1.
Okay.
I like the Toronto 6 one. Like, I like how like versatile it is and what a great job they do, like kind of mixing it up and stuff. Then Boston is good. The Riveters. The Whitecaps are kind of boring. And I forgot Buffalo existed. Buffalo right before the Riveters because I like Buffaloes.
Everybody
I like the Riveters.
I like the Riveters so too. Cool. Like, it's really great, but I am like a sucker for animal logos. If there's an animal in it, I like it.
3 out of 6 then, not bad.
I see. I'm sucker for animal logos is a good brand.
I just like, there's a buffalo in it. How can't you love it? I have a buffalo purse I bought at a Buffalo airport. I love them.
I was trying to find at the Winnipeg airport the other day. I was trying to find some stuff, and all it was Jets. I was so disappointed. I was like, you guys have a WHL team right here. Like,
so I've had 2 panic attacks at the Winnipeg airport because every time I've been there, they haven't had Ubers. And the first time I went there was the first time I had to get a taxi, in my whole life. Like, I've never had to do that. I'm 24. I was 22 at the time. Why would I ever need a taxi in my entire life? Ever. Uber exists. And I get to Winnipeg, and like my flight lands, and I want to go to my hotel, and they're like, you have no like connection. I'm like, oh, it must be the internet. That's weird. And then Twitter works. So I'm like, no. And I'm like, why can't I get Uber? So I called my editor, and he's like, what do you mean? Just like get a taxi. And I'm like, how? Like, what do you mean how? And so I just like cried for a while, and then I called the hotel, and I'm like, can you help? And they're like, yeah, we have like a free shuttle service. That's fine. It's like, oh, okay. And then like just absolute mayhem every time I'm in Winnipeg. I'm terrified. But now they have Uber, I guess. So like I would like to go back there now, because other than that, I love it.
Yeah, I had to tip my Uber driver the other day because I was like bawling in his back seat at 5 o'clock in the morning. Just like I just felt really, really guilty about it. Like, this guy, it's like he was the only guy. He was the only Uber driver in Winnipeg that early in the morning. And he comes and he picks me up, and like I was so sad to leave Z that I was just like melting down in the backseat for the first like 5 minutes of the car ride. And then I it got better and was like, this is getting better.
Should be so like great. The Twitter handshake meme of you and me crying in Winnipeg, and
yeah,
nothing to do with Ubers.
Exactly. Great. Love you, Winnipeg.
The Winnipeg airport bringing you to tears.
It's not real, you know.
It's funny because everybody jokes about how it's not real, but I gotta say the customs experience there was hilarious.
It's actually a good airport, and there's importance right as you're leaving. It's just clutch.
Yep. It's. I mean, I've never been to a bad small airport. They've all been honestly great experiences.
Yeah, the small ones are cool. It's close to Long Beach one, and that's my favorite weird airport of all time. And it's like a bummer. I had to go there one time because I missed a flight from LA to San Jose. So I'm like, what do I do when I go to Long Beach? And it was like outside, but inside it was super weird. And then I saw it close, and that sucks. RIP Long Beach Airport.
As much as I love weird airports, we do have to take our second period break here with Strava Craft Coffee, the CBD-infused coffee, which you can now get 20% off on when you purchase with code DNVR20 at checkout. And when you really love it, when you really love it, you can get their subscription service for 2, 3, 4, 6, or 8 weeks and get 20% off every single week with that. The CBD is non-psychoactive and it's been known to help with many aches and pains, including migraines, IBS, joint pain, and other things as well. So check them out today. Remember, supporting our partners is supporting us. All right. Third period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. AJ, you've been avoiding it. We're going to make you pick a team now. The time has come. What things are you looking for here? You got your logos. Do you want jersey rankings too, or what?
Yeah, we have to get into some jersey stuff here because I need some guidance. I cannot be the only one of all of the people that watch our show every day. There's got to be somebody else out there that's going to get into the NWHL with us this year. And I think we're going to have to make it a weekly thing that we do updates on the league. So
I'm going to get into it. Sorry, the office is really loud.
Perfect. So Allie's going to get into it with us.
We already know from her Premier League that she will never pick a team. She'll just flip-flop all season.
That's not true, but I cannot. It's not in my soul to choose a team from Boston, so I can't do Boston pride. As someone from Philadelphia, like I can't. But I am like a Wales.
Okay. It's Philly. I gotcha.
The disdain.
I was gonna say there was such derision in that.
You know,
It's Philly.
Okay. I'm sure you're great.
It takes time. She's a tough nut to crack.
Does it make you feel better that I hate the Flyers?
Oh, it's just like people from Philly who have been in my life who are no longer in my life. So now when I hear about Philly, I'm like, them.
Oh, well, I promise I'm nice. People in the comments can agree.
I like Philly as a city. I've had a lot of fun there. It's wonderful. And I like the Philadelphia Wings.
But I do not like the Flyers, so I feel like that makes up for it a little bit.
Definitely helps.
All right, so just choose the whale, AJ. We already know.
I enjoyed that you and I were aligned on Team Austria for WJCs. They were our underdog adoption.
And that was a disaster.
Finland with my team.
I mean, we decided to pick Austria because nobody had any expectations for them, so it was just... we're just
I
going to
know
root for
like
the
2
underdog.
words in Finnish, so now I am loyal to the Finns.
Perkele.
I don't know that one.
That's the only word I know.
I know how to say thank you.
So
Because
combined, the three of us know 3 words in Finnish. We're on our way to citizenship, basically.
last year, after the Bruins drafted a Finn in like the 3rd round, and at like development camp, we were all talking to him, and I was just entered. I just said Kiitos to like say thank you in his language, and he thought I spoke Finnish, and I was like, oh no, I don't. I was just like being nice.
I saw that Ryan Clark, when he was still covering the Habs, he speaks a little bit of Russian, and it was Zadorov or Kamenev. They were both there, and he said something in Russian one day, and then one of them said something back to him, and it was the same thing. It was like, no, we're not going to have like a conversation here. I just know how to say this one thing.
I was just like trying to be impressive, so you'd come talk to me and give me stories. What part of this did you not understand? You're younger than me, and therefore will be influenced.
All right.
That's honestly, that's hilarious. That's great.
Hey,
So
if it works, it
Connecticut's your
works.
team?
My team is the Whale for
Well, you'll have
mostly
a whale
random
of a
reasons,
time.
but the
Nice.
best jersey in the league helps.
Best jersey in hockey, period.
Yeah, the retro Hurricanes one is quite good as well. But yes, I'll concede.
The Whaler Canes.
Yeah.
All right. So, what are some other jerseys that we have? I've got
The Riveters ones are really great this year. If
Okay.
you want to pull those up, because I don't have the power to do that.
see.
I'm sure Allie's working on it as we speak.
The Riveters ones, they're always pretty good, but these ones are like mint. They're excellent.
Those
Yeah, they're
the
pretty
current
great.
ones. Yeah, those are nice.
Yeah, those are.
This is awesome.
Yeah, these are pretty clean. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, those are pretty sweet.
Almost a little bit of fisherman vibes on that one.
Oh God. I like the Fishermen.
So do I. I think it's a
love
great
the Fisherman.
jersey.
I'm actually
People
really
usually
annoyed.
don't.
The Islanders sold those backpacks, the Fisherman backpacks, and you could not get them online, and I couldn't get
Wait,
anybody
was it
in New
like
York.
shaped like the Fisherman, or
It was just the logo. Like
Okay.
it was the logo on the backpack. Also the shoes. I tried to get the shoes too, and
Oh,
No
fisherman
go.
shoes would have been dope.
yeah, the Pride are pretty great too.
I would have worn those Fisherman shoes into the Avs locker room and taken so much heat.
The Gradient ones, their road ones this year are just like beautiful.
That's a lot of Nashville vibes for me.
See, I like the Nashville ones though, and
It's-
people always try to fight me on that, but I think yellow in any jersey looks really good all the time.
This is just a lot of Bruins vibes. I'm not into it.
I mean, that's fair. As someone around the Bruins all the time in the past, that's very fair.
I think I'm down to the Whale and the Riveters because there's no way I was going to do Minnesota. I really didn't want to do Toronto, especially because that's
What
who
about
Z
Buffalo?
decided to adopt. And I'm just naturally at war with Z in hockey all the time, so I'm more comfortable just not picking her.
These are
That
pretty
black
sweet,
one
too.
is nice.
Yeah.
That is a nice kit, but
The blue gives me Rochester Nighthawks vibes though.
I feel like, oh, that's a good call.
I really like these. And it's a Buffalo. Go Buffs.
Yeah, see, I like the buffalo part of it, or the actual, like, the animal buffalo. I don't like the buffalo, the city part of it, just because
Buffalo is
that's
one of my favorite cities ever. It's so cool there. It gets such a bad rap.
it's not anything like personal against the city. It's just that their sports teams are tremendous letdowns, and I don't know that I want to emotionally invest in something like that.
That's a fair one.
I wouldn't invest in the Connecticut Whale either then.
Well,
yeah, if
I'm
you
not.
want a winning team, like you have to go with Boston or Minnesota.
That's
You know, like low key the Rivs too. Like I think the Rivs could be like really good this year.
I don't know. I tell you, the big thing though is that getting a hat. I think the Whale hat would look best on me.
Ooh.
Well, you can have a hat of a team that isn't your team necessarily too.
Oh yeah, I have a bunch of them.
Yeah, I have hats of like every team, and like I don't have chosen teams in a lot of leagues.
This is tough. This is tough to do like live in front of people.
we might start a fight in the chat. We have Riveters, Buffs, rather Buttes in there as well.
We don't.
Earlier, we had at least someone rooting for the 6 earlier.
The 6 just wasn't going to happen because Z adopted them, and I would rather be at war with her.
Yeah, no, that Minnesota logo is just not doing it for me either, even if it wasn't Minnesota.
Fine, but it's not at the same level as the others.
All right.
I'm a big fan of the Buffalo because it has the same vibes as the old Buffalo Bills logo where the Buffalo is just like standing there.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite logos in sports. I have 3 hats with that logo. I love it so much.
I don't understand why the stars and then like the crown. Above the
crown
Buffalo.
is because Buffalo's like the Queen City or whatever.
And then the stars.
I'm sure there's a reason for it.
There might be a reason, and I don't know it, and I don't want to like say the wrong one and then have everyone yell at me.
Okay. I don't like the star. If it was just the Buffalo, I would probably be a bigger fan. But
I mean, the Connecticut logo is the best one.
it
Who
really
doesn't
is.
love a happy whale that has a hockey stick as its smile?
That's what I'm saying.
I didn't even
Elite
notice
logo.
that the hockey stick was its smile. That's amazing.
It's
I'm
adorable.
between the whales and the buttes. Those are the 2 that I'm in between.
I'll convert you all to the whale eventually.
You can make
Yeah, I didn't
whale
wanna go
ones
with the
too,
whale.
and that's fun.
All right, AJ, you'll switch next week. I can already tell, but
Yeah. Well, I think it'll be a case where I'm gonna get a Riveters and a whale hat, and then I'm just
The real team is the friends we made along the way.
there you go.
It's probably our podcast motto at this point.
All right, I guess we're wrapping up the show then. So, Marisa, if you have anything you want to shout out or anything you're working on, go for it.
Sure. Follow me on Twitter at Marisa_Ingemi, 1R, 1S. Don't spell it wrong. You won't find me. I'll be covering the NWHL for Sportsnet. I'm covering the NHL for NBC. Covering college hockey at USCHO if anyone's into that. And I'll have more stories at other places soon. So just follow me. Good vibes only.
We are a BC podcast. Sorry.
Oh no. Why am I here?
Just for the next about
Year and a
6 months
half or so.
Yeah, maybe a year and a half, and then we'll move on.
See, if you said Northeastern even, that would be okay because sometimes I do stats for them. So like, I love them, but like BC's a no.
Well, we were a BU pod for a long time, and then now we have to be
You
a
can't do
BC pod.
both. That's like being Red Sox and Yankees podcast. You can't do that.
Well, we just follow wherever the Abs draft guys. So that's
when
all
it
it
was,
is.
When it was AJ Greer, you were.
It was AJ Greer and Shane Bowers, and
Yeah.
now it's New Hook, Ambrosio, and Hellison.
Well, New Hook's really good, so that's like fair.
Yeah.
But
Ambrosio's off to a great start too. So.
But
Yeah.
I'm in a better mood when BU is good, so you have to consider that.
Okay.
And yet, I mean, we do
Also-
have
Those are not a Providence pod.
a lot of prospects at Notre Dame, and we kind of hate Notre Dame. So
Yeah, well, that's because watching Notre
Yes,
Dame is like a crime against humanity. So
true.
they just play a style of hockey that's bad for the world.
The only Notre Dame hockey we acknowledge is Anders Bjork, like existing.
I'm fine with
That's
that.
Acceptable.
Yeah.
Because we like Anders Bjork.
Yeah, there we go. I'm sure Allie will pick the Buttes. Just so she can say SCO to us all day.
So, yeah, Ryan also said don't overthink it, Buttes all the way. So that might be our team. But I also really like the Whales, so I'm really torn.
Yeah, but Allie wants to be. You need to move away from RK and more towards the hockey people. So you got to be a Whale fan.
I think
Did you decide you're a Whale fan?
Yeah,
Okay.
this is now the DNVR Whale podcast.
that's right.
It is,
See,
guys.
and now
This
you
is gonna
can
be
use like
awesome.
pod as a pun. So the whale pod.
The Whale Pod. There you go.
That
Perfect.
should have been an easy choice.
So we are now adopting a weekly segment. Marissa, you got to come back and give us updates on the whale, and we'll call
Okay.
it the Whale Pod with Marissa.
Okay. As
Done.
long as there's like some intro saying we'll have a whale of a time.
Sure, we can have the whale dance and do
We'll
all
pump
kinds of
it
fun
up,
things.
yeah.
And then when we're done, we'll be like Finnish, like the fin of a whale.
See, it just wrote itself.
Yeah, it's easy.
We're done here. Pod confirmed.
Welcome in.
Oh my God, yes.
See,
Thank
This
you,
is-
commenter. I didn't see your name, but that's cool.
It writes itself at this point.
Yeah.
All right. I guess on that note, we are going to get out of here. Of course, sponsored by Green Mountain Dental Group, 15 minutes from downtown Denver. They are the best family dentist in the Denver metro area. When you sign up for a cleaning, x-ray, and exam, you can get yourself a free Sonicare toothbrush from Green Mountain Dental Group. They are awesome. We've had multiple people from DNVR go over there, from everything from root canals to just a regular cleaning. And they said it's some of the best dental experiences they've ever had. So check them out today and get yourself that free toothbrush. Thank you, everybody, for watching, listening. Thank you, Marisa, for coming on. Be sure to like and subscribe to the video. If you like our content, hit that bell. It'll notify you every time we post something new. For the Avs people, we have another preview coming up at 6 p.m. tonight covering Evan and I's super hot, spicy takes on the bottom six. So if you want to check that out, we would appreciate it. Again, thank you for coming on, Marisa. Hope you have a good
Thank
rest
you.
of your day. And yeah, we'll see all of y'all for Free Skate Friday tomorrow.